with Christina, and today we have an awesome lady by the name of Karen Quintana with Viking Law as a litigation paralegal.
What's up?
I think that I'm excited to have you here for a lot of reasons, and we'll dive into a lot of different things today. But it's fun to get to know, people, because obviously people know you.
Right.
And you're this awesome litigation paralegal, but there's so much more, right?
Yes.
So, but first, tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you grew up, and how you even got into PI.
So I grew up here in the Valley of the Sun. I got into PI, I think 13, 14 years ago or so. I started in Cairo, and then I just kind of grew my way up from there to now doing litigation. And so I know the medical aspect of it and all the way up to working a case and making sure it gets settled properly.
So I have to say, a lot of my friends still think when I say PI, like I mean private investigation. So just to clarify, we're talking about personal injury. Mm-hmm. And as you guys know, I'm very passionate about it. So is Karen, because we are in the field, in the business of helping other people.
Right.
But taking us back to your first position in the medical space, like was it Cairo? What did you do there?
Yeah, so I was doing Cairo as a chiropractic assistant, and then I was doing patient representative at the Cairo that I was working at. So doing all of the intake and then getting it assigned, to a proper attorney and making sure that they were getting the treated that they needed.
How long did you do that for?
I think I did that on and off for about 5 years.
Okay. I love that because, if there's the other people who are with chiropractic clinics and maybe that they want to explore other options, you're proof that you can go on different channels in personal injury.
Right. Yeah. If you learn it and you grow to love it and you want to continue helping the community, wherever it is that you start off in Cairo, then you definitely have room for expansion and for growth.
Yeah, like you're not stuck there.
No, you're
not. You're not a tree.
You continue to grow, yeah.
But, but I'm serious. Like, learn, if you are in Cairo now or PT now, or in legal now, just learn everything you can. Mm-hmm. And then you never know. Like, I've had a lot of friends where now they've done legal forever and now they're on the other side. Mm-hmm. They're in the medical side, right? Yeah. So I think it's important to hear that. Right. So that like, you're not stuck in wherever you are. You can grow, learn. And like I said, you're proof to that. So, right. But I know my reasons of why I'm so passionate about what we do, but I want to ask you, what are some of the things that you love about personal injury and what are some of the things that you're super passionate about?
I'm really passionate about, I grew up in the West Valley, right? And so that's mainly where I started my career experience. And the passion for the Hispanic community, to me, it's mind-blowing, to learn that after so many years, still they need to be educated on PI, and when they have an accident, they still don't know what to do. And being able to walk them through that and change somebody's life while they're being, going through these hard situations and not knowing it, that's kind of what drives me. Being able to assist them and being able to really help them and learn the back end of it. And so if it ever happens again, they continue to call us and grow with us and then know exactly what to do going forward after that.
Yeah, I see your cute videos too. I love it. I love it. And I think, people deserve that because it's so stressful and your life gets interrupted and you don't know the first thing to do. So now that you're with Viking Law and obviously shout out Juan, Juan Roque is a solid guy, just such a big guy with a big heart. Mm-hmm. And we go way back. We go way back to the point where it was before personal injury. Mm-hmm. And people don't know that. Like I've known Juan Roque since I want to say 2012.
Wow, it's a long time.
Now that you're with Viking Law, like obviously there's a bunch of different law firms. What's going to set you guys apart from the rest?
What's going to set us apart is that we're going to tailor, all of the needs for our clients. We're going to have that connection with them, giving them calls, following up, not just doing the back end AI thing. We really want to continue to make things personable, and be able to really make that human interaction rather than just, sending a text message or following up. No, we want to make sure that we get to know our clients and that we know exactly where they stand so that we can, grow their case and make sure that everything goes well for them.
That's a hot topic, the whole AI thing, right?
Right.
We should expand on that a little bit. You're right. Maybe call me old school, but I just think it's super important to still pick up the phone.
Yes, absolutely.
And not just do everything on a text basis, especially people hurt in a car accident.
Right.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. We want to make sure that, you want to get to know them and you want to get to understand not only the value of their case on what the accident that they had, but also what is the value of the case to them. Like, what does it mean for them? It's not just them being hurt, but it's also them losing time from work and not being able to drive around. And how do we know that? The only way to know that is by connecting with them, picking up the call, talking to them, spending time on getting to know what their needs are. Do we need to assist them with getting a rental? Do we need to assist them with getting to medical care, which is important, And so I think we're losing that in the PI field or in the PI world. And it's important to Viking Law and to us to be able to provide that for our clients.
Not being able to pick up your baby. That's something you want to know.
Yeah.
There is no amount of money that can equal to the time that you miss out holding your baby. That's what you're talking about.
Yep. Yeah. Everything, we never know. Maybe it's a single mom. Maybe it's a family, a large family with just one vehicle or, things like that. And so we want to be able to really comply with meeting their needs and not only seeing it as a number. So
what do you say to some of the consumers that really, they do genuinely feel like, oh, I don't need a lawyer. My insurance company will take care of me. What do you want to say about that?
Even though we think we know it all, you really should at least pick up the phone and call an attorney. You want to know all of the ins and the outs of your case. You want to know if you have a case. What type of case do you have? What the value of your case is. If you think it's a fender bender, it really isn't. There are so many aspects to car accidents and to, the PI world where you want to be knowledgeable and you want to be educated, and it's not just about, oh, I can do this on my own or, I'm going to spend less time on this. It's really about how does this affect you in the future? When you get hurt, will this cause arthritis in the future? Will this cause for me to have a lot more pain in, down the road 6 months? We never know. Yeah. Do I have a TBI? You don't know that, it's traumatic brain injuries can come out further along the way, concussions and things like that. And so not just because you want to handle it with the insurance and making sure that it's just, you're not wasting time, you don't want to waste time. And so being able to connect with an attorney that really meets your needs and that you make a connection with is important. And when you reach out to an attorney like that, I think it will really change your mind. And so maybe call 1, 2, 3 attorneys and really get educated and make a connection with one of them and make sure that not only are your medical needs met, but also everything further along the future, whether it's property damage or whatever it is important to you.
Especially take advantage of the fact that it's a free consultation.
Correct.
Right?
Yes, complimentary.
So how do people get a hold of you for that before I switch our subject?
You would call Viking Law. And our phone number is a 602-698-6800. And you can ask for myself or you can ask for Juan. Juan is our intake person and he's our CO and COO and all of the above. So
and be on the lookout for his awesome commercial that's just brand new, right?
Yes, and we all speak Spanish too. So if it's your mom that, is looking for an attorney or your parents or your brother or sister who don't speak English, you can always ask for somebody to speak Spanish and we will be able to answer all of your questions in Spanish as well.
There you go. Now to our other subject. So I hear you're a public speaker.
I am. I've been public speaking since I was, I think, 18.
How does one even start on that? That is like everyone's greatest fear. How have you been public speaking since 18? Like, how did that fall on your lap?
So we started, it was a group of friends. Actually, I met a girl who started this whole public speaking on her own, right? And so she was trying to meet students that were going through difficult times or that were, a diverse culture or different types of backgrounds. And I got connected to her through a former teacher of mine who was actually my foster mom. And so from there, we kind of just grew upon each other. I chased her around for a little bit. She's actually an author now and she's a doctor. And so
let's shout her out. What's her name?
Her name is Julia Garcia. She was in New York. She's an amazing human being. And so what's funny about that is that we connected and we didn't even know that I used to play soccer for her dad. So it was kind of meant to be, right? And so we started going door to door. I started doing all of the sales to the high schools and the elementary schools and all of the Title I schools to try and bring awareness for, bullying and domestic violence and teen pregnancy and substance abuse and suicide. And so we would tailor all of those subjects to whatever the school's needs were. And it just kind of grew from there. And she now does that for a living, and she's in New York, and she travels the world. And when she needs help, then she'll call me. And
that's
I'll
huge. And those subjects are so incredibly important.
They really are.
Run through those again. So it was
domestic violence, substance abuse, suicide, bullying, and teen pregnancy.
And it's crazy when you think about that as a child, and if you're in that type of household, the impact that has.
It really is, because you don't know how many students, we're going to touch, but we'd always get that one phone call where, hey, because of the event that you hosted today, you were able to save somebody's life. Or one of our students called us and, was able to reach out for help for domestic violence, and we were able to get her out of the situation. And so just that one life that actually came out to share that and ask for help, that is it's just so valuable. It's worthwhile,
And you're still doing that now?
Yeah, so I do it sometimes. Obviously, with work and stuff like that, it holds me back or holds me back. But whenever it's needed or whenever someone reaches out, yes, I will go out to school. I have a lot of connections with my former teachers. I like to stay involved with the community. And unfortunately, some parts of the valley are less fortunate than others. And so I volunteer my time for that.
Wow, that's huge. And then with that, how do you said that you just basically coordinate with the school to see what their needs were. But yes. When you do these talks, do you pick 1, 2, or just you could do 3?
We can tailor it to them. So sometimes they're workshops, sometimes they're keynotes. It really just depends on what the school is looking for. If they're looking for something for us to focus on, maybe bullying, then we'll go and touch, subject just on bullying. If they need, a workshop for just young ladies that are, going through, domestic violence or teen pregnancy or don't know how to ask for help, and they're kind of seeing that on their campus, then we'll go ahead and tailor those needs to that workshop for those young ladies. So it really just depends on what they're asking for.
And so if they want to get a hold of you for that, do they talk to you directly?
Yes, they would call me. My phone number is 623-500-8758.
We'll put it up.
Or they can also connect with Julia, and they would reach out to her and her agency for that as well.
And then you're saying you can even do actual workshops.
Correct. Yes, we can do workshops. Mm-hmm.
So you could do both. You could do the workshop, and then you could also speak in front.
The difference is the keynote would be maybe 2,500 to 4,000 students in one setting.
I would pass out.
This makes me nervous.
This?
Oh my goodness. And then a workshop would be more of a classroom setting, maybe 5 to 25 students, where it's more personable. You're making more of a personal connection with them. A closer group basically is what it is, where you kind of just spend a little bit more of quality time with a group of students rather than just doing a keynote in front of, so many others.
But technically, you don't always have to do a school. If we wanted to put an event together and we wanted you to highlight some of these, you can do it.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. It doesn't have to be a school. Yes. That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because having someone who's not afraid to speak in front of that many people, I think that's so, valuable, because I said, I would definitely pass out. Which one of those do you feel you really feel they're all important, so that's not the question, but which one of those do you think is super helpful when you talk about it?
As far as the subjects?
Yeah.
I think domestic violence, and I think the reason being is because it's not only towards women, it's also towards men. And it's so undervalued that, because people don't really bring it up, that it's actually really a subject for men too. And so there is a difference between the two as far as the male and female, but the domestic violence is still the one issue. And so because it's really not talked about when it comes to the other gender, for men, then it just makes it a lot more valuable because they get vulnerable. And so when they see a person that has gone through it and we speak on it and we bring up real life situations.
It's like they're not alone. Yeah. It's happening somewhere else.
And so it kind of it opens them up really, and it helps them see things differently. And I think that's one of the subjects. It's one of the hardest subjects, but I think it's one of the subjects that can really definitely most save lives out of all of the other ones.
It's kind of interesting because even in car accidents, I know you've had some, awesome guys that have been hurt and they're like, I'm fine. And it's like, wait, your MRI is showing that you have a broke, you know what I mean? And it's like, and I think naturally, Justin, how do you feel about this? It's like they have this need to like, oh, I'm okay.
Right.
And so I think, you're right to kind of allow them to be vulnerable and to be seen, and also that to just know they're not alone.
Right. And that kind of makes a connection, right, with going back to getting to know your client and the cultures, the different cultures
for sure.
And you have, a macho man that says, no, I have to go to work. And they come back, with a rotator cuff tear. Right. And how are you using your shoulder working in construction without missing work, when you just went through this.
And how that's going to affect you long-term later.
Right.
With domestic violence, like in talking and doing these talks, like, what are some of the things that the children in school who live with domestic violence at home like show? How does it show up for them every day in school?
So their demeanor changes in the crowd, and you kind of can pinpoint who has gone through it or who it's affecting just because of the way that their facial expressions change or emotions change.
Like withdrawn.
Yeah, so they'll cry, or maybe they'll kind of close out a little bit or not talk. We have the ones that kind of shut down a lot more than the other ones that really want to speak out because they're crying for help. And they generally don't come up to us. We'll have them reach out to their counselor, and then their counselor, will go ahead and take it from there. But you can really pinpoint them in the crowd. And so just by looking at them and delivering a message for them, it's really important.
And then as far as the bullying over the years, do you feel like it's gotten better?
It's gotten worse, I think. I have 3 girls, and so they range between 5 and 15, right? And so I have noticed that my kids have been bullied from like kindergarten all the way up until now. And it really doesn't get any better. Fights in school, like this generation, I just don't know how much more we can help. I think that there is a lack in the public school system where they don't really tailor the needs of the students, or have emotional support for them, or have things, or a community where they can actually feel safe maybe. And so I think that that's an issue. I think that it needs to be touched upon a lot more. We're seeing a lot of the school shootings going on around the year, and all of that comes back with the bullying. Scary. Yeah, and so you really never know what's going to happen when you send your kids off to school, right? And so I think it's important for us to teach our kids well and let them know, that, if somebody's being bullied, maybe be their friend, or get them away from the bully, or don't be a bully yourself. And learning how to love one another and yourself is very important, I think. And so if we and try to get that to our kids and see if they can change the community themselves by teaching that at school to their friends, then maybe that can help a little bit. But it's really hard right now.
How much do you think social media has a part to play in that?
I think it has a lot to do. I think social media has portrayed so much false information that kids are, now picking up because everyone has access to a tablet. Everyone has access to a phone. School now has, online services, and they get to wander off and tailor off into social media. And I think social media really doesn't portray the reality of things. And so it's really not giving real issues. And I think it's giving a setback on the emotional and mental health to our kids and to the everyone coming up and the new generations, because it starts off so young, and so they see the perfect woman dressed and they have expectations of what to look like, and you have the different crowds in the school and who does and who doesn't and who has more and who has less. And I think that has a lot to do with how bullying now is seen and portrayed, because
And yeah,
it's different.
Bullying can also just be done on like social media. You're right.
Yep.
And, just that same topic of like AI or tech, where some people they are so aggressive on their texts or posts, but then you confront them and they cower down. I mean, have you heard of things like that?
I have. Even when
like they don't even know how to talk. Like it's like, wait, you just said all these things, but then you can't. You literally can't talk to me.
Right. You talk to them in person. You try to have a full conversation with them, and it's kind of like they have no words on how to describe or what to say.
Now, I'll give some concession in the fact that sometimes, like, obviously, it's better if you're able to express, because in writing you can express yourself, especially like. I find myself doing that sometimes, like, if I really am so bothered by something, I want to write it down and because I can express myself. But if you talk to me about it, I can talk to you, about the subject. I'm talking about where it's like, they're so mean and then you talk to them and they're like, so nice, but then it's like almost like a different person on their email or their text. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the tone of voice, I would say, or the tone. You change your tone from a written message or text message or email or whatnot, from having a live conversation is completely different. And, maybe I can send you yes, that's fine. And I maybe sound rude, and then I call you and we try to have a conversation and it's completely opposite.
And then you throw in the part the emojis play, right? Where you just like the same thing I just said, I just pop it to put a little heart next to it. Now it's a nicer message.
Now it's a nicer message.
But I mean, there's lessons in that too, because it's like, look, first of all, if you're driving, don't even text and drive. That's number one.
Right.
And if you're busy, and we're all guilty of that, it's like, oh my God, I'm multitasking, so I'm going to message. Now all of a sudden you look back, you're like, oh my God, my one sentence text kind of came off rude, but you didn't mean to. Or now on the opposite side, if you're reading that and you're in a bad mood,
right,
you're reading it the way that your mood is. So I think there's all this disconnect in that. So that's why maybe I'm old school, but I think that a in-person, conversation or a phone call is still important.
For sure.
And I know my Justin in the back there giving us a sign that our time is almost over.
No.
But I don't want it to be over. But, you mentioned foster mom. I caught that in the beginning. So can you share that?
Yeah. So I have my mom, obviously, right? And so I always lived with her. But during the immigration issues that came up in 2007, 2008, my mom had to leave. And so she left to Mexico. I was 16 and I had my first daughter. And so I had a place to go, but I really didn't. And so I had this teacher that kind of helped me throughout the years. And when she found out that had happened, I was in a bad relationship with the father of my child, which he's a great man now, by the way. He's a great dad.
People change.
Yeah, and so
good for him.
Because I was 16 and I was still in high school and I had my daughter and I had nowhere to go. She kind of just took us in.
This is your teacher?
Yeah, this is my teacher. She was actually my principal, and so so she offered, and so I lived with her for about 2 or 3 years, and she's kind of been my mentor, and that's who has helped me bring awareness to the schools, because she's still involved in the school system, and so that's kind of how that started.
The fact that people like that exist.
Oh yeah.
I mean, let's shout her out. I can't talk. Like that's. I mean, because she didn't have to do that.
No, she didn't, and she didn't only do it for me. She had so many other kids that she took care of.
See,
And
that's the kind of person I want to meet
Yeah.
in this lifetime. What's her name?
her name is Amy Perhamus.
And she's still in the school district?
She's still in the school district. Yep. So she does a lot of the trainings for teachers and for the behavioral health students. So that's her main focus.
You gotta have such a pure heart to do stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
So,
she's amazing.
well, before we say goodbye, are there any specific people or any one specific? I can't talk again. Sorry. Before we say bye, Karen, is there any other shout outs you want to give out? Anyone out there that's really played an instrumental part in your life?
I think we touched base on everyone. I think I'd give a shout out to all of the attorneys that I've had the pleasure of working with in the past, 10 years or so, and that have been a part of the growth process and the learning process. I think that is huge for me because now we can portray it, in different types of levels and experiences, and now be able to give back to the community and to everyone that's coming up in the personal injury world and be able to be an instrumental part for them. And hopefully they, that they can learn as much as I learned from others throughout the way.
And I'm super excited for your new endeavor now with Juan and Viking Law. So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years, I would see myself, oh man, I don't know. I definitely want to stick with, being still in the personal injury world and hopefully helping Juan with growing the firm and making a difference in the community and giving
He
back.
doesn't play.
No,
so
he doesn't.
He's ready.
Right, yeah. So I don't know. I think you'd have to ask me that at another time for a different podcast because I really don't have an answer for it. I just think growth, really, an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, and you're so passionate about PI, so I do see you being in PI. And every single one of us, we're gonna deal with bad times. It's just, that's like a season of life. So, when one of those times come up, like, how are you gonna deal with that? That's the message I want you to leave Karen.
So in bad times, how am I going to deal with a hard time? I honestly, I've dealt with many of them, and I think it's important to just always keep moving forward and always look for something that draws, that you're drawn to and that you want to focus on. For me, it's helping and giving back, right? And so my passion is, I come from a community where not everyone is fortunate to not even middle class. And so if I can focus even my time when times get hard to that community specifically, to just give back a little bit, even if it's a little bit of hope for them, I think that's what gets me through the hard times.
One of my favorite things about you is you're so genuine, and you can see all that today.
Oh.
So I'm glad that you took time out of your busy day to come. So till next time, bye.
Bye.